Hey guys, it's Lucas Catton here, and today I'm going to share a tiny rant about our political system. And I love America, and I'm so grateful to be here. And this is not a criticism of our country. This is an opinion about our political system, about our two-party system, and how it continually fails us, and that there's always going to be a major divide of roughly 50% of our country because there's only two primary parties that continually get included and promoted and receive favor in our country. So we get left with people who we may not otherwise want to have in office because the people that we would otherwise prefer to be there, if they're not part of one of those two political systems or those parties, then they don't stand a chance currently. And both parties want to keep it that way. They don't actually want a third party or a fourth party or fifth party, whether that's libertarians or Green Party or the rent is too damn high party or anything like that. That was a real party, by the way, if you don't know. And so this two-party system continually creates an us versus them, and it's always going to be the us versus them, and a major divide, and they lose sight of what is best for us as a whole because they're too busy fighting against each other. And there are too many instances that I could easily bring up and find, and it doesn't take long if you want to go on and do some searches about, partisan politics, backing what your party says, because if you don't, then you're in trouble, even if you disagree with what that item is, whether it's a law or, changing something or a motion for this or whatever. There's so many different things, and I don't want to get into the entire political process. I'm just talking about that two-party system and how it's flawed. And I'll give you one thing. So back in 2016, I had written a blog on my site about redirecting campaign funds for social reform. And I went in and I looked at, that was in March of 2016. I looked at some of the money that had been raised for the top candidates from the two primary parties and what had been raised at that point. And there were still many months left in the election, and what was spent. And maybe there could go to some other things to help our country than just spending it on a bunch of ads and traveling and frankly, a lot of rhetoric. There's a lot that gets said through people who we wind up having to elect that is just said for the benefit of getting elected. And I think that many people would agree with that. There's plenty of cases where it's not, and I get that as well. But if you go to opensecrets.org, which is a website that helps track campaign finance and where the money comes from and where it goes to and who has what and how much and when, where, that sort of thing, a couple things stuck out for me. And that was taking a look at the 2016 election as a whole, including the congressional election, the Senate and the House of Representatives, as well as the presidential election. Presidential election, $2.4 billion were spent on that. The congressional election was another $4.1 billion. And of that $6.5 billion, if we take a look at what that money, of maybe some other things of where that money could have gone, I'll give you one example. There's roughly 16 million children in the United States today who lack sufficient food, sufficient nutrition. They go hungry. Some of them throughout the year, some of them occasionally or through difficult times. But if we took that $6.5 billion and divided it by those 16 million kids, that's over $400 per child that money could have gone toward that year to help feed these children and find more effective ways of campaigning and saving some of that money. Let's say I realize that you have to they do have to spend some money in order to get their messages out. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be able to do that. I'm talking about the excess and how far it's gone and how much waste occurs. It's over $1.11 per child per day that went hungry that year or this year, but that was spent back then. So in 2018, the congressional election alone was another $5.7 billion. Just that. So in 2 years, the spending in those elections went from 4.1 to 5.7. In 2020, the combined total might be well over $9 billion, possibly even $10 billion spent on the congressional and presidential elections. And and looking at many of the things that we have that are struggling within our own country that could receive some of these funds for the benefit of all, not just feeding children, but there's so many different social reform programs that could be helped with this money that could help improve the status of our country as a whole, rather than paying for more ads on TV that are smearing other campaign people, or rather than seeing somebody else up on stage yet again arguing over something that at that particular point in time doesn't either get anywhere, or they've just practiced as a speech so that it could look good on TV because the debate is this, or because they're stumping for that program or whatever. Let's cut a lot of that waste. Let's open up the doors and advocate for a third, fourth, fifth, sixth party, whatever, more options for people so that we can, as a whole, be more represented equally, not just a divided 50-50, so that we can eliminate partisan politics and so that we can advance as a society that takes a look at the benefit of more than just 50%, or that takes a look at more than just, a certain set of rules that they feel everyone should follow. Let's take a look at everyone's best interest as a whole. So whether you are liberal or conservative, I both agree and disagree with you, because I consider myself both and neither. And whether you have a favorite candidate or not, let's see if maybe we can look forward to something in the future that we can do a better job of not fueling and feeding this wasteful spending in political madness, in my opinion. Our country is amazing, and we're so lucky to be here. And maybe it takes exercising some of these freedoms of speech to share some of these things. And hopefully somebody will come along and say, yeah, we need to include more parties in this political process, and not just be one or the other. That's about all I got for that rant. I actually recorded a much longer video that I deleted because I went off on a completely different tangent and had to start over. I wanted to keep it back to the main point, but I also want to share a little bit of news with you. The podcast Support for Guys actually is up on Spotify now, and you can take a look at some other places too. But if you have any questions, you can go to anchor.fm, you can go to soundcloud.com, you can go to lucascatton.com. You can see some more videos. You can take a look at the podcasts, and stay tuned for more to come. Thank you, and I hope you're well.